You maimed the mountain. Nathaniel didn't flinch, bless him. I did, what of it? Standing before his desk once more, Tywin's heir met him stare for stare and refused to budge an inch. It almost made him smile, like looking back through time to the boy he'd once been. Would that the rest of his children had such steel in their spine. Tyrion was just a babe. He'd all but given up hope on Cersei for now, while Jaime had only just begun to find his, but Nathaniel. The Mad King himself could have stood in this very room, and he doubted that stoic expression would waver. With an iron will like that, the legacy of the Lannisters would be in good hands. And so rather than reprimand him, Tywin asked a question. Why, simple. The boy planted a hand on his desk. The loyalty of Sandor outweighs the cruelty of Gregor, better a determined dog than a mad mountain. Tywin considered the matter a moment. It was true Gregor had grown increasingly erratic as of late. Unpredictable. Violent, even. He'd killed a guard just the other day for looking at him. The man was a blunt instrument at the best of times, crude but effective. Good for breaking and bludgeoning the enemies of the Lannisters and little more. Few could hope to stand against a man of that height and strength. In light of that, he'd turned a blind eye to the man's eccentricities for some time now. But did you have to burn him? I did. The faintest curl of Nathaniel's upper lip told him exactly what he needed to know. Violence is the only language Gregor understands. He was born mean, there's something wrong with him. Up here, he tapped a finger to his skull. But he knows strength, and I proved mine to him. He hasn't come near Sandor or Selene since I put him in his place. Because no one ever had. Tywin imagined Sir Gregor was at something of a loss now. Still, the idea that he might otherwise be addled. He leaned back in his chair, contemplating the matter further. You might send a message to the Meisters, then. Already have. The boy beat him to it. They call it a tumor, a sickness of the brain. Can you cure it? Maybe, a shrug followed. I might be able to, not sure I should. If he's as much a monster with it as he is without, what's the point? Tywin tutted softly. His boy was clever, but he still didn't see all the angles. Not yet. He would in time. With aging came experience, and he was growing slowly but surely. If you could secure his loyalty, he would be a powerful ally. Nathaniel clicked his tongue. Maybe, but do I really want someone like that on my side? There it was, that good heart of his again. Tywin oft favored the iron fist, but the boy was akin to a velvet glove draped over it. He was the kind face of Lannisters, offering the carrot before the stick. His mercy played well into his plans for the family, but there were times when he thought the boy could stand to be more ruthless. The only good enemy was a dead enemy, as the saying went. Ha! Were that true, he would have killed Ares long ago, consequences be damned. Still, if his son practiced peace, he would never be wise in war. How little he knew. Which brings us to another matter. He steepled his fingers. Lord Rickard Stark has agreed to my offer. Nathaniel caught on quickly, sharp as a tack, this one. You're fostering me in the north, for a time, 5 or 6 years, perhaps. Your sister will go to the Stormlands. Sure enough, the boy's expression proved quite telling. Tywin pursed his lips. You do not approve? His son most surely did not. I have questions. Good. He would have thought less of him had he gone off meekly to suffer in the cold without protest. Ask. Why the north? It is the last place Ares would expect to find you. Also the furthest from his reach. And the Northmen at least care not for the Targaryens. They ascribe to their foolish notions of honor. The Martells seek an alliance with the crown, the Tyrells are loyal to the crown, the Baratheons share blood with the crown. Nathaniel quirked a brow. When you say it like that, it sounds as if everyone is licking the Mad King's boots. Not all. The Arryns hide away in their mountains. The Tullys obsess over petty squabbles, while the Freys are ever eager to ingratiate themselves with the Mad King. The Greyjoys are far worse, would happily reap and reave while the lot of us are distracted. Nathaniel thumbed his chin and considered the matter further. Then why send Cersei to the Stormlands? That's the same as giving them a hostage against us, isn't it? Tywin scoffed. Let them think they have a prize in your sister, they do not. He left the rest unspoken. Nathaniel and perhaps Jaime, once he accomplished his great task, were the hope for his house. It was too soon to trust Tyrion, no matter what Joanna might wish of him. Learning to love his third son might well prove an exercise in futility. It was simply too soon to tell. Not for the first time, Tywin found himself inordinately glad he'd made Nathaniel his heir. He wasn't spitefully stupid, but in the same vein he wasn't afraid to ask questions. An admirable quality in a leader. And if his plan paid off, years from now he might even be. No, best not to get his hopes up, lest he place all his eggs in one basket. You may take that girl of yours with you. And Clegane, of course. Nathaniel fixed him with a keen look. Which one? Whichever you prefer. Cersei won't like that. Then perhaps you should speak to her before you leave. Cersei hadn't been eating. Naruto knew it at a glance. One look was all it took. The moment he picked the door's lock and saw her pale face, it was easy to see. She didn't look up from her pillow as he entered, not even when he set a tray of food down beside her bed. She looked thinner. Gaunt even, he tapped her shoulder and she rolled over, refusing to look at him, still sulking over Jaime, of course. His departure had hurt her dearly. Eat. He tapped her again, she didn't move. You need to eat, no response. Eat, he hefted a loaf of bread at his sister like a sword, or I swear to the sage I'll shove this down your bloody throat. That got a reaction out of Cersei. She rolled over to scowl at him. What in the seven hells is a sage MMPH? He shoved the bread into her mouth, muffling her words. If you can sass me, you can eat. Cersei glared at him. Naruto hefted another loaf with intent. In the end, she was the first to back down. She chewed reluctantly, swallowed, and looked at him through half-lidded eyes. Where is Jaime? Was she that much of a mess? You where he is. He's joined the Kingsguard. He ignored her flinch. Now came the difficult part. And you're going to be sent to the Stormlands for a bit. Her brow furrowed. You're coming with me? No. He shook his head and braced himself for the inevitable explosion that was sure to follow his words. I'm going to Winterfell. What? She drew back, startled. No, this must be some sort of mistake. Father would never separate us like this. He would and he has. There's nothing I can do about it. But I don't want to go to Storm's End. She looked away, sullen. It's not fair. Wasn't she supposed to be the older sibling here? Why did this always fall to him? Father doesn't hate us. He took her by the arm and steered her back to him. He's trying to protect us and build bonds with the other houses. It'll only be for a few years. How many? 5 or 6. Maybe less, Cersei absolutely hissed at him. That doesn't mean he can sell us off like a pack of. She paused, paled suddenly, and swallowed a caustic retort. Never mind. There it was again, that pause. The moment she took to compose herself, she'd stopped herself from saying something nasty again, from being an utter shrew. Why are you acting like this? Like what? Cersei averted her eyes and looked away from him, idly twirling a lock of blonde hair around one finger. I don't know what you mean. Like that. He snapped his fingers at her. Not yourself. She took a deep breath, perhaps in anger or maybe to steady herself. He never knew. And then, I prayed for you. Now it was his turn to blink. Pardon? While you were dying, she elaborated, patting his hand. You were asleep for so long after the attack. No one thought you woke up, and Pycelle, that old white rat, couldn't wake you, so I prayed. Her fingers squeezed his, so tight it was almost painful. I prayed and prayed and prayed. I swore to all the old gods and knew that I'd be a better person if they let you live. And you did. They brought you back to me, so I have to keep my promise. I have to, or they'll take you away again. I always would have come back, you know. Naruto nearly said the words aloud. But he bit his tongue at the last second. If this made her a better person, then surely that was a good thing. You'll be safe, won't you, little brother? She drew him into her arms, and for once he didn't protest against her embrace. You'll come back to me again. Her hand stroked the top of his head gently as she whispered sweet nothings to him. Won't you won't let those barbarians break you. Strange turn of phrase there. He chose to ignore it. That was a mistake. I'll try. It was the only thing he could think to say. Don't make yourself miserable in the Stormlands. Who knows, you might enjoy it. Cersei huffed and held him together. I most certainly will not, but I shall try. He tried to stand up. She didn't let him go. A sigh parted his lips. Fine, he'd let her be clingy just this once. The things we do for love. He had time enough to write 2 quick letters before dawn. Sending ravens up in the north would be difficult. He knew that, hence his frantic scribbling now. One for Elia, another for Rayla. The former wasn't much to read, but the latter. Well, some might call this treason. It was a risk, of course. If anyone intercepted the ravens, he might be in a spot of trouble. But no one would. He'd seen to that. These messages would combust if anyone but their intended recipients opened them. From a purely political perspective, he could see why such subterfuge caused strife. But everything really would be better if the mad king was gone. Loyalty to the crown and the realm was all well and good, but there came a point when sanity outweighed it. What was the saying? Every time a Targaryen was born, the gods flipped a coin. Half of them went mad, didn't they? Be it in the beginning or the end, which meant treason, they said. Treason it was then. Even dragons died, but before death came torment, and he had just the thing for Ares. The north wasn't as cold as Naruto feared. Some might call that cold comfort. Heh, Jaime would have smacked him for a joke like that. Mother would have laughed. She'd cried when he left. He wondered how she was faring now. Almost all of her children sent away for their own safety, leaving her to raise Tyrion nearly alone. No, don't think about that. Happy thoughts, warm thoughts. This far wasn't warm like the Westerlands, but it was hardly the icy hell he'd heard stories of. He'd take what he could get in a world like this. The Hound wasn't happy about it. Even with his healed face, he'd been scowling all the way. Nymeria was shivering, too. He'd lent her his cloak long ago, but she clearly wasn't used to these temperatures. The faceless girl made no complaint, but he saw her scowl all the same. Winterfell certainly lived up to its namesake, if nothing else. Even in summer there was snow about in the castle yard, and the air, while not freezing, had a crisp chill to it. The castle proper was magnificent. From here one could hold off even the staunchest of sieges. It came quite close to matching the majesty of Casterly Rock. No sign of the lord and his family, however. No one had expected them or even come to greet them. Some might have called that breach of courtesy. Rude, even. Naruto called it secrecy. It was only natural that Tywin would want to keep this secret, and he couldn't much blame him for that. Best to keep some things under wraps. If the whole realm knew he was here, he'd never be safe. Faceless men did not come cheap, and while he very much doubted they'd come for him again after the ultimatum he'd issued, he wouldn't put it past dumb thugs or common cutthroats to try their luck. Likely only the Starks knew he was here, but where in blazes were aha? Movement. He heard the harsh canter of hooves behind them, such a noise that nearly had his escort performing an about-face. A rider in light leathers came barreling into the courtyard behind them, astride a black stallion. He shot past them, circled once, and came to a halt. No, he realized as they tugged back their hood, not a boy, she. He found himself staring at a slender, dark-haired girl nearly of an age with him. "You're the Lannister lad, then?" "I am." He quirked a blonde brow at her. "Hooray, you!" She swung herself off the horse with a grin and offered him her hand. Against his better judgment, he took it. She yanked him out the saddle to stand beside her. Naruto felt his heart kick against his chest. Was this what it was like to be smitten? "Lyanna," she grinned at him. Her eyes strayed to the sword at his hip. "You know how to use that?" "Depends." He couldn't quite hide his smile. "You know how to fight." Her grin grew. "You'll do. Let's see what you're made of." Wait, what Lady Stark threw the first punch. It was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Rickard Stark considered himself an honorable man. He lived by that honor, and he was sure someday in the distant future he would die by that honor. It was simply his nature. Where other lords often acted in their own self-interests, he put family first before greatness, duty before glory. Honor before dishonor. It was in his blood. He was a Stark in all things, and Starks kept their word, even when it seemingly made little sense to so. Most Southerners called the Starks hidebound for that. Rigid, inflexible, bah, the fools in their precious summer silks, how little they knew. There was no man more loyal than a Northman. Thus it fell to him to steer his family and the North in these trying times. Who else could? His eldest son, hot-blooded Brandon, had run off to Riverrun again to see his betrothed. Ned was being fostered in the Eyrie, and Lyanna. Well, while his wild she-wolf of a daughter remained here in Winterhold, she had problems of her own. No, it fell to him to do the right thing, the only thing to see their home and hearth protected, even if that meant allying with Tywin Lannister. Initially, he hadn't known what to think when the raven from Casterly Rock came. Such an odd message it carried. Dark wings brought dark words, as the saying went, and his had proven no exception. He'd spoke of terrible things, of the Mad King's increasing paranoia, of him striking at his children, and advising him to do the same. That raven would not be the last. They'd continued their correspondence in the years that followed. Tywin Lannister was a dangerous man, a hard man, a ruthless man. He might completely trust his motives, but he trusted that the man was no friend of the Mad King. For King Aerys Targaryen had most assuredly gone mad. If he would strike at the children of the Warden of the West, then who was to say he wouldn't target another? He had taken his warning in good faith and maintained a line of constant communication hence. Truth be told, he had been somewhat surprised that he wanted to foster Nathaniel here for a time, but he could understand the old lion hedging his bets. Any father, even a lion, protected his children. There was a brutal logic behind it. The North was far from the reach of Aerys and his ilk, and he had little sway here. With the Hound and that strange, silent girl at his side, any assassins that Aerys sent this way, if he was indeed behind that ghastly spectacle in Casterly Rock, would be swiftly dispatched. Still, he wondered what Tywin was attempting. Was he trying to seek a match between their children? Nathaniel and Lyanna got on quite well, perhaps a little too well even. They become fast friends from the moment of their meeting and grown closer still these last 3 years. Very close. That was the very reason he was writing even now. Scratching out the last of his current letter, he blew the dust from it, considered its contents, nodded once, and went about his preparations. The signet ring of the Starks pressed down against wax red as blood and sealed it. Satisfied with his admittedly hasty work, he turned and handed it to the Maester Lewin. "See this to Casterly Rock, as soon as possible." "As you will, my lord," the man bowed. Rickard watched him go in silence. Only when the door closed did he allow his shoulders to slump and his true face to show. He hoped Tywin would respond swiftly. Fancy words aside, the question had been a simple one. "Is your son seeking my daughter's hand?" He didn't know. He just didn't know. Nathaniel and Lyanna were thick as thieves, and while it was true that they were a good match, he knew Nathaniel was writing letters of his own. Not just back home to Casterly Rock, oh no, but Dorne and King's Landing as well. He had many fingers in many pies, it seemed. Honor had prevented him from breaking the seals to read the messages himself thus far, and well it did, because it kept him from being caught up in a game of courtly intrigue that he had no desire to deal with. There was no simply way of know what that boy was thinking at any given day. Could he, in good faith as a father, entrust Lyanna to them? Would he honor her? Letter aside, Nathaniel at least comported himself better than that Baratheon boy. He'd heard unsettling things about that one and brothels. He couldn't countenance such a man to be her betrothed. Or worse, the Prince Rhaegar. No, 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 he didn't want her anywhere near the prince. He refused to subject her to the madness of Ares and his ilk. Just thinking of it made him shudder. But Nathaniel, Nathaniel, what was he going to do with that boy? He spoke to her with honor and accepted her fiery disposition as few suitors could. 7 hells, he encouraged her most of the time. He genuinely seemed to enjoy riding with her, sparring with her, even venturing down the crypts with her on occasion. He had no doubt his daughter would be delighted with such a match, if indeed that was Nathaniel's intention. Sod this, he needed a drink. A knock on his door drew him forth from his maudlin melancholy before he could indulge. Rickard looked to it with a world-weary sigh. He didn't tell them to enter. He didn't wish to be seen in such a state. "What is it?" "Begging your pardon, my lord," a servant called, her voice muffled through the wooden frame. "But you told me to tell you if there was another disturbance in the yard." The gray ghost of a smile plucked at his bearded face. "Fighting again, are they?" A regal sniff answered him. They sounded almost proud. "Dueling, my lord." "Again?" He chuckled softly. "Who's winning this time?" Lyanna fought like a demon. Her sword flicked in at his face like greased lightning. Constantly striking, lunging, ever on the attack. Naruto ducked, but not quite fast enough. She was quick, even with a blunted blade, fiendishly so. Pain blossomed up his side. He grit his teeth, stomped down, and twisted his body at the last instant, evading her what he knew would be a follow-up thrust by the merest margin. Her strike went wide, and he hammered a fist up into her gut. She staggered back, massaging her stomach, and actually laughed at him for it, the wild girl. Well struck! Only a Stark could get the wind knocked out of them and laugh. The people of the North were made of stern stuff indeed. She dove in at him again, sword swinging, forcing a high parry. Her eyes sparkled as she disengaged in a swirl of silk and brought her blade screaming in toward his left hip. He swatted that aside and struck back in a wide sweep that had her dodging back to gain distance. The very second she stepped back, he brought his blunt blade crashing down in an overhand swing. She had no choice but to block it naturally, and the force of doing so drove her down to a knee. Here at last, her smile faltered just a little. Right before she gave up the block, swept to the right and smashed her sword into his knee. He grunted in surprise, briefly unbalanced, and stumbled back, letting HR reclaim her footing once more. That was a cheap shot. Her smile flashed out, brilliant as a sunbeam. "All's fair in love and war," a blonde brow rose. "And which is this, then?" She faltered for a second. He used it to close the distance and attack again, forcing her on the back foot. "No fair." A grin tore across his face as steel struck steel in a song of ice and fire, the rhythmic clashes jolting his arms as much as hers. He could hold out, she couldn't. He knew he could beat her in a fair fight, break her bones, her neck even, but he didn't want to do any of that. He liked Lyanna and enjoyed her company. He didn't want to hurt her, let alone accidentally kill her. Instead, he held back, restrained himself, humored her, and fought just hard enough to help her improve day by day. Win-win situation, right? Wrong. Now if only she weren't so smug about it. He could feel expectant eyes watching them from the battlements and down in the lower yard. Half the castle seemed to think this was some sort of bizarre courtship ritual between them. Every morning he and Lyanna would face each other in the yard at dawn. And every morning he moved just a little faster, forcing her to up her game in return. The other half of the castle thought they were genuinely trying to kill one another. It had become something of a spectator sport for Winterhold. Some of the small folk even made bets on them. The hound seemed to find it all amusing in a grim sort of way, if only because he knew he could happily hand Lyanna her arse with both hands tied behind his back. Nymeria wasn't fond of her, but he'd begun to suspect the reason for that. She didn't like anyone who took up his time. Well, no one who wasn't a Lannister at least. Lyanna stomped on his foot suddenly, trapping him, snapping him back to reality. He could have dodged what came next any number of ways and knocked her to the dirt. Instead he braced himself and let the wild Stark smack him on the head with the flat of her blade. "Dead," she sang triumphantly, eyes alight with the thrill of victory. "I win again." "So you did," he allowed, feigning defeat with a bow. Her blunted blade smacked his ribs this time. "Dead and dead," she grinned. He blew out a sigh. "Lyanna, can't hear you. You're when next." She swiped at him again. He caught the tomboyish girl's blade below the hilt with a gloved hand. "Dead am I?" He cocked a golden brow. Her eyes widened. "Shit. Quite." He swung a leg out and swept her feet, flipping her flat onto her back, and that, as they say, was that. From there he took a moment to catch his breath, steam rising in the air. The north was colder than he was used to, but he could endure it. Lyanna, however, there was no enduring her. She was a she-wolf through and through, always wanting to ride and run and fight. She fought pretty damn good, too, for a girl who wasn't supposed to know such things. He enjoyed their spars, but he missed his family. Father, mother, Jaime, little Tyrion, and yes, even Cersei. He could see the reasoning behind it. This wasn't a punishment, but a means to protect him. A noise drew his ear. Seemed Lady Stark had found her footing. "You could have helped me up." He turned to face her with a wry smile. "Why? You don't need my help for that. You're plenty strong now. Only because of you, you've gotten better at this." Lyanna stared at him for a long moment, then bit her lip as he looked on. "Maybe it wouldn't be so bad if you stayed. Here. In Winterfell, I mean." She finished just a tad too quickly, struggling with her words a little, made anxious by something he couldn't quite comprehend. "It might be fun having you knock me down more often." He blinked, thoroughly puzzled by her remark. What kind of backward compliment was that? Her eyes flashed and he had an inkling. "All right, I'll bite. What are you up to now?" Lyanna clamped a hand across his mouth to silence him. Then she tore her hand from his lips, leaned in and pressed something far softer to them. Soft, warm, yielding. Naruto barely had time to comprehend what she'd done before she drew away. "Remember that, Nathaniel Lannister?" She whispered hotly, face burning, words a low growl. "Remember me." Then she was off, hurtling across the yard with a red face. Calling out after her did him no good. She only ran all that harder, all the faster, practically fleeing into the keep as though the hounds of the hells were at her heels. Just like that, those expectant gazes on his back suddenly became knowing ones, and he heard many a man and a woman tut softly to one another about young love and foolish youths under their breaths. Naruto heaved a sigh in their wake. That settled it. Girls were weird, give him a woman any day, although, he touched a hand to his lips. He could still taste her mouth on his. She'd surprised him. He liked surprises. Maybe, just maybe, it wouldn't be so bad to linger here a while longer. He could already hear the castle's servants whispering to one another. He suspected he'd be hearing from Lyanna's father before nightfall. The faint crunch of snow behind him put paid to that thought. He pivoted, momentarily nonplussed before he mastered himself. Nymeria awaited him, head bowed low. "A red priestess from Ashai wishes to speak with you, my lord." His curiosity piqued. "Does she now? Where is she?" "At the gates. She only just arrived." Well, that was interesting. He didn't think anyone of their order was anywhere in Westeros. What was one doing here in the far north? Meeting her might prove an amusing diversion this morning, if nothing else. His shadow caught at his elbow. "Be careful. I do not trust her." He craned his neck and found that Nymeria spoke the truth. A stranger awaited him at the gates, clad in red robes, dismounting a dark destrier black as night. She tugged down her hood as they regarded her from afar, revealing a youthful visage framed by bright hair and bright piercing eyes that focused firmly upon him now. "I'll be careful." Nymeria nodded once and stepped back. "That is all I ask," her piece said. She stood her ground, watching him walk away. 7 long strides brought him across the yard to their foreign guest. "Greetings, Lord Nathaniel of Casterly Rock." The red priestess bowed her head in a curt nod and spoke in High Valyrian. "Or shall I call you Naruto?" Thank goodness Tywin made him learn High Valyrian. Wait. Her words caught up with him, and his brow shot straight up into his hairline. She shouldn't know that name. It's Nathaniel, he replied in the same language, silently cursing her for throwing him off his game. She gave him a small smile. If that is the name you wish to go by in this life, I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. His hand fell to the hilt of his sword. Do not be afraid. She looked past him, watching as the people of Winterfell bustled about them. They cannot understand us, and I mean you no harm. He was beginning to regret this. What brings you to the frozen north, miss? You may call me Melisandre. The priestess tilted her head to regard him. And I am here because our Lord wills it. Bloody fanatics. Why had he thought she would be any different? Our Lord, he scoffed. Spare me the speeches, I don't worship your Lord of Light. You have already done his work, though you've yet to realize it. He has sent me with a gift. She drew something large and heavy from her saddlebag, wrapped in dark cloth, and held it out to him. Here, I have satisfied my curiosity in meeting you. Now I shall fulfill my purpose. Baffled, he stepped in and tugged the cloth aside to inspect the item in question. A large egg awaited him, dark red in color and larger than his fist. His eyes widened at the sight of it. Is this what I think it is? A dragon egg from the Shadowlands of Ashai. The red priestess handed it to him, all but forcing him to accept it, lest he drop the bloody thing on the ground. His gift to you, I have seen your face in the flames. You will wake fire from stone. This will be but the first. He caught it awkwardly, tucking it against his ride side under his cloak. Right. You do not believe me. She must have seen the confusion in his eyes, for the priestess's serene smile became sly. Perhaps a demonstration would soothe your fears. I don't need your prophecies. What I offer is knowledge, not prophecy. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. Something seemed to shimmer within her gaze as she gazed upon him. In your first life, you fought in a great valley against one you called your friend. His name was Sasuk. You and I both know what fate befell him. His smile died an ugly death, dragging his good humor and curiosity into a shallow grave. How do you know that? I know much, she shrugged a shoulder. It is permitted to me by our Lord. Shall I prove myself once again? Her smile took on a sad, almost resigned tilt. In the past, you loved one who did not return your feelings, a foolish slip of a girl named Sakura. The words were a dagger in his heart, but she wasn't done with him yet. You also miss your dearest friend, the fox Kurama. You shall see him again. Indeed, you hold his fate in your hands. His gaze snapped down to the dragon egg in his right hand. With the other, he reached up and grabbed her by the robes, dragging her forehead down to his. What the hell are you? An instrument of our Lord's cleansing fire. She stared back at him, calm as can be. As are you. How is it that you returned to life? He allowed it. I am not your enemy. Good, he growled. You don't want to be? Her hand was suddenly scalding hot. He held on in spite of it. The flames didn't burn him. That seemed to please her. Ah, a rapturous sigh fled from her lips. Sweet faith, how lovely it is to see mine rewarded firsthand. Truly I am blessed by our Lord. She looked past him suddenly. Your little shadow fears me, she need not. We shall meet again, Lion of Fire, when the war is done. War, she scoffed at her. What war? She smiled. The war of the lion and the dragon. His throat clogged for a moment. You can't prove that. I don't have to. Quick as a snake, she grasped his hand and reeled him in. Time will tell, as shall I. Her eyes pierced his. You will have many great loves, but stray from the path, and you shall lose the most tender of them all. Her fingers bit into his wrist, drawing blood. I see a great many children in your future, and I shall bear one of them in time. Her voice was spellbinding, drawing him in despite his best attempts to resist. A girl with hair of fire. Ah, but the child of the north shall be the greatest of them all. It is he who will face the night enough. His temper sparked, and Naruto shook himself free with an annoyed grunt, cutting her off. More riddles and vagaries? You do not believe yet. Melisandre granted him a pitying look, the kind incredibly old folk might grant a foolish child. You will, and you shall wish you hadn't. Enjoy your ignorance while you can, little lion. Her piece said she swung herself onto her steed before he could hope to get a word in. For the night is dark and full of terrors. Something about those words rooted him, left him glaring at her as she rode away, leaving him with the egg. He gave it a glance, frowning a little. Stone though it was, it felt warm to the touch. Could it be? Nymeria appeared soundlessly at his side, distracting him. I do not trust her. Naruto heaved a sigh. Neither do I, but she claims not to be our enemy. She had known things she couldn't possibly know. He prayed he never laid eye on her again. How little he knew.